The day the emperor placed the eldest prince under my name, consort Ning from Lanian court drowned herself in the lake. The eldest prince remained expressionless and continued to call me mother consort. Only when news of consort Ning's death arrived did his eyes redden with fear. From then on, he became respectful and filial, treating me as his birth mother. But all of this changed after he ascended the throne. If you hadn't asked Father Emperor to take me away, my mother wouldn't have taken her own life. He punished me by making me guard the funeral of the concubine, copying Buddhist scriptures in blood to atone for my sins. When my maternal family learned of this, they led the ministers to petition the emperor. A single letter of treasonous conspiracy wiped out my entire clan. In the dim dungeon, I endured daily reprimands and lashings from the eunuchs he sent, unable to even beg for death. When I opened my eyes again, I sent the crown prince, who had been affectionately calling me mother, back to Lanqing court. He panicked instantly. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I will remember mother's teachings from now on, always prioritizing Her Majesty's wishes, and never betraying mother's deep affection. Seeing my prolonged silence, Hui Zhu quietly urged me by my ear. I suddenly snapped back to reality. And only when I saw 9-year-old Fu Yuan kneeling on the ground presenting a scroll with both hands did I finally confirm I had been reborn. I took a deep breath and spoke in an utterly calm tone. Rise. Hui Zhu took the portrait and unfolded it before me. Your Highness, the Crown Prince's painting is truly exquisite. He's depicted you like a celestial being. Look. Her words were cut short as a young palace maid rushed in through the door in a panic. Terrible news, terrible news. Lady Ning from Lanian courtyard has thrown herself into the lake. Before I could speak, Fu Yuan's childish voice rang out. What a performance. Suicide is a grave crime for concubines. If she wants to die, let her die. Why trouble my mother with such trifles? In my past life, it was like this. Yuan was filled with indignation upon learning that his birth mother was seeking death. I wanted to send someone to save her. But he said consort Ning's suicidal behavior was just a ploy to get him back, acting like a country bumpkin, and told me not to bother. I believed him and only sent a few palace maids to reprimand her. Who would have thought consort Ning would truly throw herself into the lake and perish? Fu Yuan was so frightened that his eyes turned red, clinging to my arm and refusing to let go. Though I detested Ning Shan, I always believed the child was innocent. Considering he had lost his birth mother and was in a pitiable position, I finally nodded and agreed to take him under my name, registering him as my legitimate son. From then on, I never bore any children of my own, devoting myself to his careful upbringing with meticulous care. Fu Yuan also regarded me as his birth mother, paying his respects morning and evening, constantly inquiring after my well-being. This picture of maternal kindness and filial piety changed after he ascended the throne. He declared me the murderer who had killed his birth mother. To atone for my sins, he punished me by forcing me to keep vigil for consort Ning and to copy 100 Buddhist scriptures in my own blood. My maternal clan united with court officials to petition, yet with just one secret letter accusing them of treason, he exterminated my entire family. I was imprisoned in the dungeon, subjected daily to reprimands and floggings by eunuchs he sent, denied even the release of death. Yet it was he who prevented me from saving consort Ning. At this thought, I issued a stern decree: summon Cao Yonggui from the Imperial Household Department immediately, and bring the imperial physicians too. They must revive this person for me at all costs. Hui Zhu stepped forward in response, but Fu Yuan was still young and couldn't hide his emotions on his face. He widened his eyes in disbelief and asked me, didn't Mother Empress hate that bed-climbing wretch the most? Why would you still save her? Indeed, my hatred for Ning Shan was known to everyone in the palace. She was a maid in my palace, yet she took advantage of my pregnancy and the Emperor's drunkenness to climb into his bed. She even pleaded before the Empress Dowager to bear a child, causing me to miscarry and leaving me with lasting health issues, making it difficult to conceive again. Now, the very person she relied on is about to become my legitimate son. She has lost completely. Why should I save her? Without explanation, I sternly decreed, return the Crown Prince to Lanqing courtyard. In this second life, I will no longer keep this ungrateful son. I want him and his palace maid-turned-mother to never be separated for all eternity. Fu Yuan fell to his knees with a thud. Imperial Mother, wait, if the Emperor wishes for Imperial Mother to raise this child, it is an imperial decree. You need not consider Ning Daing as my birth mother. If she wishes to die, let her have her way. Imperial Mother, I truly don't want to go back. I beg you, don't abandon me. He crawled on his knees before me, his small face streaked with tears, looking utterly pitiful. But the thought of how he had tormented me in my past life sent a chill through my heart. Huizhu entered from the outer hall and whispered a report into my ear. I wiped the tears from Fu Yuan's face and softened my tone. Your mother willingly gave up her life for you. To her, you were more important than anything else. Even if she made mistakes, how could you ever say such words wishing her death? Hearing my words, Fu Yuan froze in shock. At that time, Ningxuan caused me to miscarry. Though the Empress Dowager allowed her to bear the child, she consistently suppressed Ningxuan's status. Without gaining higher status through her son, she vented all her resentment onto her own child, subjecting Fu Yuan to nothing but beatings and abuse. Yet these long-past memories have faded into the river of time, leaving only the irretrievable warmth of maternal love in the grown Fu Yuan's heart. If he doesn't remember, then I'll help refresh his memory. Do you realize that if I had sent someone a moment later, your mother would already be dead? You would have truly become a child without a mother. Now she's been rescued but remains unconscious. Shouldn't you hurry back to see her? Coming to his senses, Fu Yuan kowtowed 3 times heavily before me. In no time, the entire imperial harem learned of this matter. Even the consorts who usually couldn't stand me had to praise. Her Majesty the Empress is fair in her judgments, generous and benevolent. To console me, the Emperor especially came to Fengyi Palace. Reclining lazily on the couch, he casually asked me, Wan, do you dislike Yuan and want a child of our own? My hands continued their work without pause, but my heart already understood his probing intentions. My father holds the esteemed position of Grand Preceptor, and my mother is the legitimate daughter of the loyal and valiant general. My noble status as a lady is both an advantage and an insurmountable gap between us. Ningxuan climbed into the imperial bed, successfully gave birth to a prince, and then there was my miscarriage. Each of these incidents bears his fingerprints. I have lost a child before and know the heart-wrenching pain all too well. How could I bear to separate mother and child? I handed over the refreshing tea. Your Majesty need not worry. No matter which sister in the palace gives birth to a child, I will treat them as my own. He watched me quietly with a slight curl of his lips before finally accepting the teacup. That night, the Emperor stayed at Fengyi Palace. Early the next morning, Huizhu helped me rise and brought a bowl of medicinal tonic. Your Majesty, this was sent by His Majesty through Eunuch Shu, who insisted on watching you drink it. She bit her lip, her face filled with resentment. I looked at the medicine bowl in her hand and sneered inwardly. What nourishing tonic! This was a fertility-destroying potion laced with musk, leeches, and philodendron bark. He's making a deal with me. If I give up raising Fu Yuan, I must accept this bowl of sterility medicine. But in my past life, when I agreed to raise Fu Yuan, he used the same trick. Back then, to dispel his suspicions, I willingly drank it. Now I've changed my mind. Just say my old stomach trouble is acting up again, and to avoid vomiting, I'd better not drink. Huizhu conveyed my message. The Emperor showed no reaction. She merely elevated Ningxuan to the rank of concubine, allowing her to personally raise the imperial prince while staying at Lanqing Palace for several consecutive days, showering her with endless luxuries. I counted the days until concubine Ning, emboldened by favoritism, seized the Lake Moon brocade reserved for consorts and above, and Fu Yuan smashed the snowball raised by noble consort Shu. That's when I knew the time had come. That lowly wench from Lanqing courtyard, daring to neglect her courtesies to me, all because of the Emperor's favor. That vulgar woman is plain-looking and reeks of petty commoner airs. What on earth does the Emperor see in her? And the eldest prince keeps getting dizzy and having nightmares. The Emperor hasn't come to my palace for a whole month. When he finally did, he barely warmed his seat before being summoned away by him again. The autumn air was crisp and refreshing. I gathered with several concubines in the imperial garden, and their conversation was filled with nothing but complaints about consort Ning. Just as I was propping my chin in my hand, listening with great interest, a crisp voice rang out. Sour grapes. In the end, it's just that you lack the ability to win the Emperor's favor. A silence hung in the air as I stood up and glanced toward noble Lady Xin, who had spoken from the corner. She had only just entered the palace a few days prior, a courtesan sent by a wealthy merchant from Jiangnan. Not a single concubine present acknowledged her words, responding only with disdainful snorts. Unfazed, the noble lady wore an expression of absolute confidence. The gathering ended on an unpleasant note. I didn't take the palanquin but walked back to Fengyi Palace on foot. On the way, Huizhu asked me, "Does your ladyship not plan to do anything? What would you have me do? The person my elder brother sent must have some capability. We'll just wait and see how things unfold." No sooner had I spoken than I saw Fu Yuan whipping his way through the palace corridor, lashing out at passing maids and eunuchs. I held onto Huizhu's hand as I stepped forward. Only looking up at me when the whip struck the stone brick before my feet, Huizhu stepped forward to remind him, "Your Highness, you must pay respects when you see Her Majesty the Empress." He pressed his lips together, barely bending his knees before straightening up again. Huizhu was about to say more when Fu Yuan suddenly shouted, "If you don't raise me, you'll regret it. My mother said you're a barren hen who'll never bear children. The Emperor will surely divorce you." With that, he turned and ran. "Your Highness, the Crown Prince has gone too far." I sneered inwardly. Consort Ning had been living too comfortably, neglecting her supervision of the Crown Prince. It was time to bring her down a peg. "Tell Noble Lady Xin that today is the perfect day for it." That evening, Noble Lady Xin was playing the zither under the moonlight in the Imperial Garden, causing the Emperor, who was on his way to Langering Court, to turn his carriage around. When this news reached me, the Imperial physician was taking my pulse. "Your Highness is burdened with excessive worries. You must take more care to rest." I withdrew my outstretched wrist and smoothed my sleeve. "The affairs of the palace are complex, but after all these years, I've grown accustomed to them." Watching the Imperial physician pack up his pulse pillow, I changed the subject. "As for the eldest prince, he's been suffering from frequent headaches and fevers lately. Perhaps you could pay him a visit and examine him." "Your Highness is too kind. This humble servant will go at once." After the physician left, I settled down to review the account books. But before long, Huizhu came running in. "Your Highness truly foresees everything." That maidservant from Consort Ning's palace tried to use the prince's cold as an excuse to summon the Emperor again, but before she could even reach Noble Lady Xin's brocade palace, she ran straight into the Imperial physician. What was Consort Ning's reaction? Consort Ning, she seemed to let out a sigh of relief upon hearing the Crown Prince was unharmed, and has been attending to him without leaving his side. I chuckled softly. "Now that's something you don't see every day." If Consort Ning had ever shown Fu Yuan this much care, he wouldn't have been throwing tantrums about not wanting to return to her in the first place. "Have someone keep an eye on her. Noble Lady Xin's foundation is unstable, we can't let her ruin things." Using the excuse of the first prince's delicate health, I had Consort Ning confined to her quarters to pray for his well-being. The Emperor's favor toward Consort Ning had always been pretense. Now that Noble Lady Xin was constantly by his side, he'd long since cast her aside. When I mentioned the matter, His Majesty merely assumed I was managing harem rivalries and said nothing more. Half a month later, Fu Yuan suddenly developed a high fever one night. Consort Ning shook off the eunuch guards and, clutching her child, ran to the gates of Jinqiu Palace where she knelt and refused to rise. "Your Majesty, Anna is burning with fever, you must save him." The Emperor, rudely awakened, was displeased, but seeing Fu Yuan unconscious made his heart leap to his throat. As chaos erupted among the crowd, I arrived unhurriedly with the Imperial physician in tow. The Imperial physician placed his hand on Fu Yuan's wrist, then suddenly exclaimed, "The Crown Prince's condition is critical. Quickly, prepare the medicinal decoction." After drinking a bowl of the herbal medicine, the Crown Prince's condition finally stabilized. I slammed the table forcefully. "When the Crown Prince developed a fever, why did you delay summoning the Imperial physician? You waited until it became severe enough to reach the Emperor's attention." With just a glance from the Emperor, Consort Ning trembled in fear. This concubine tried to reduce the Crown Prince's fever, but it was ineffective. "Anna misses His Majesty dearly. If the Empress hadn't confined me, he wouldn't have fallen ill from excessive worry and caught a chill." "What nonsense are you spouting, Consort Ning? This palace merely forbade you from going out, never said you couldn't summon the Imperial physician." Noble Lady Xin draped an outer robe over the Emperor's shoulders while giving Consort Ning a once-over. "Winter approaches, yet elder sister dresses so warmly when going out." When the Crown Prince came, he wore only sleeping garments. He was burning with fever. How could he possibly wear more layers? My gaze sharpened. "Could it be that you deliberately let the eldest prince catch a cold, just to use this trick to win favor again? He's my child, how could I harm him like this?" Noble Consort Ning's voice turned shrill, and the hall fell silent for a moment. On the bed, Fu Yuan happened to let out a faint murmur. "Mother, I don't want to bathe, the water's too cold, please." Imperial Consort Ning panicked immediately. "Your Majesty, it's not like this. Please listen to me." The Emperor's face flushed red with anger. "Enough. Imperial Consort Ning is hereby fined 1 year's salary and confined to her quarters for 3 months. The farce ended as the crowd dispersed. I sat by the bed quietly watching Fu Yuan's fluttering eyelashes and said coldly, "Stop pretending." He froze, immediately opening his eyes to glare straight at me, his gaze filled with malice. "Why won't you raise me, Mother Empress? What must I do for you to save me?" The corner of my mouth curled involuntarily. How absurd, wasn't this the very mother he remembered from his past life? Why did he want to escape her now that he'd been reborn? I tucked the blanket around him. "What nonsense are you talking? Don't tell me the fever's addled your mind." His gaze turned icy. "You lied to me. You said I meant more to her than anything. But her heart was always set on the Emperor, on silks and jewels. When I couldn't summon father, she'd call me worthless. You knew everything, why didn't you intervene? Why didn't you take me away from her?" Fu Yuan's voice was hoarse with accusation. I blinked at him, all innocence. "If even your own mother treats you this way, how can you be sure that someone like me, with no blood ties, wouldn't kill you? After all, the Emperor still has no legitimate heir. You can't conceive a child. I am your only way out." His flushed little face lifted with a meaningful smile. "I see." My expression gradually turned cold. "Your Highness the eldest prince, rest well here. Consort Ning is waiting for your return." Returning to Fengyi Palace, I summoned Huizhu to conduct a thorough investigation of the entire palace. Sure enough, we found a minuscule amount of safflower in the rouge from Hongzhuang Tower. "Your Highness, what on earth is going on? How could the first madam be the one poisoning you here? It couldn't possibly be sister-in-law. The only one who could meddle in the affairs of the inner palace must be that person above." No wonder there was no reaction when I refused to raise Fu Yuan or when I acted against Ning Shan. Turns out there was still a backup plan in place. I kept silent and secretly summoned physician Xiao under cover of night. "Your Highness need not worry. The duration has been short and no significant harm has been done. Follow my prescription carefully, and your Highness shall soon conceive the imperial heir." I nodded and began taking the prescribed medicinal decoction daily to regulate my system. Time passed swiftly, and before I knew it, winter had arrived. One day while I was reconciling accounts with the Imperial Household Department, the eunuch in charge of the Imperial Kitchen came to report that a young eunuch had been caught stealing after crawling through a dog hole. Huizhu brought the person before me, and I almost didn't recognize him. The emaciated child standing before me, so thin a gust of wind could knock him over, turned out to be Fu Yuan. Consort Ning was truly heartless. She hadn't even been letting him eat. Watching him wolf down his food, I couldn't help but frown slightly. "Eat slowly. All this is yours." He slowly swallowed the food in his mouth, his eyes filled with confusion. "Why are you so kind to me? Does giving you food count as being kind? You're the eldest prince, the only child in the imperial harem. You should naturally live better than ordinary children." I reached out to wipe his mouth, but he recoiled. Instantly on guard, "He's been beaten into fear. You don't understand why I didn't save you yet still treat you so well." I chuckled lightly. "Because this is your fate. You were born into royalty, and having such a mother is your destiny in this life." Fu Yuan froze for a moment, then lowered his eyes. After a long while, he finally gritted his teeth and whispered, "I don't want to resign myself to fate." I forcefully suppressed the smile on my face. "If you don't want to resign yourself to fate, then think about what you should do. From now on, the Imperial Kitchen will prepare your daily meals. You won't need to steal anymore, just wait each day, and someone will deliver them to you." After Fu Yuan left, Huizhu absent-mindedly massaged my legs. I set down my book and said, "If you have questions, just ask directly." After some hesitation, she finally asked, "The eldest prince is still so young. Would he really harm Consort Ning?" "He will, but he hasn't been pushed to the brink yet. We still need to wait." The days that followed were uneventful until the first snowfall, when noble Lady Xin sent word of good news. She was 1 month pregnant. The eldest prince was no longer the emperor's only child. I made sure to send word to Consort Ning, who was still under house arrest. She once again vented her resentment on Fu Yuan. Only when her own son was beaten black and blue did she smooth the disheveled hair at her forehead and say to the eunuch guarding the door, "I demand to see the empress." In Lanqing courtyard, Consort Ning dismissed all her attendants. "You must not let noble Consort Xin give birth to that child." Consort Ning struggled to maintain her composure, but her tightly clenched hands betrayed her. The late emperor had 8 princes and 5 princesses. Bearing royal children is the duty of imperial concubines. With so many women in the harem, do you think you could kill them all? I found it amusing. Were others forbidden from bearing children while only she, a maidservant who climbed into the emperor's bed, was allowed? Seeing Consort Ning frown in contemplation, I continued, "Ning Shan, for a palace maid, your ambitions are far too grand. Let me advise you, abandon this foolish notion while you still can. She suddenly seemed to remember something and abruptly raised her head. My status is low. But what about you? Me, I'll give honor to you. You help him ascend the throne, and in the future we'll both become Empress Dowagers together. This is a win-win situation. I'm so brilliant. What use are those honors to me? As long as Anna succeeds to the throne, everyone will have to obey me. Ning Shan's eyes gradually grew wild with madness, and I cursed this fool silently in my heart. Suddenly, a small figure darted behind the screen. Swallowing the words that were about to escape my lips, I deliberately put on a disdainful expression. Don't celebrate too soon, the eldest prince is the one who will inherit the throne. Ning Shan didn't care at all, instead giving me a meaningful smile. You aristocratic ladies wouldn't understand. A child is like a newlywed daughter-in-law. Once I've got him under my thumb, he'll obey me for life. I nodded in satisfaction. I'll let you out, but you'll have to show me what you're capable of. Once out of Lanqing courtyard, I could no longer contain my laughter. How fascinating, truly fascinating. 3 individuals, each with their own hidden agenda. The son plots against his mother, the mother schemes against her bedmate, and that person sitting in the high position is still scheming against me. Who will have the last laugh? I find myself growing more and more eager to find out. As the new year approached, I found some random excuse to release consort Ning from confinement. She was quite impatient the moment she was free. She couldn't wait to seize the opportunity. The emperor, on a whim, invited me to admire the snow, and we happened upon her with the crown prince, making wishes before a snow-sculpted guanine. Today I have sculpted a guanine from snow, praying for your majesty's health and boundless blessings, and for our dynasty's prosperity to attract tribute from all nations. Consort Ning and Fu Yuan knelt side by side in the snow. Their shoulders blanketed with falling flakes, yet neither seemed to notice. News of victory from the northern front had put the emperor in high spirits, and her sincere devotion further delighted his imperial countenance. Your devotion touches our heart deeply, beloved consort. The emperor stepped forward to help her up. I put on a cold expression, feigned jealousy with a few sour remarks, then let them be. Consort Ning regained favor once more. This time, she no longer employed various schemes to compete for attention, instead displaying gentle affection, and the emperor seemed to develop some genuine feelings for her. Just as I waited to see what Consort Ning's next move would be, I unexpectedly received a visit from Fu Yuan. That woman is about to make her move. His words made me freeze in my tracks. I overheard her talking with the little eunuch. They bought phantom heart powder from outside the palace. Phantom heart powder. That woman said the drug shows no symptoms at first, but with prolonged use, it disturbs the mind, causing frequent hallucinations. Eventually, the victim dies from mental derangement and organ failure. I instantly gasped in shock. Ning Shan has such audacity to dare plot against His Majesty. Why did you come to tell me this? He hesitated for a moment before enunciating each word deliberately. I refuse to be her pawn, nor do I wish to see the emperor dead. But your mother is paving the way for you. If anything were to happen to the emperor, your succession would be legitimate. Do you truly not wish to sit on that throne? He stared at me in silence. He still hasn't been pushed to the brink. If he were to reveal the truth to the emperor, Ning Shan wouldn't live through the night. I waved my hand. Go back. Tonight, you never came to see me, and the emperor will remain unharmed. Killing with a borrowed knife, what a perfect opportunity. What a pity. He can't die just yet. I had someone track down the eunuch that Consort Ning had bribed. He knew in his heart that he had nearly committed a grave mistake. It took some effort from my people to convince him to switch the illusion powder with the blazing desire powder. The little eunuch thought it was a tonic to strengthen a man's vitality. Little did he know that prolonged use of it was actually a poison that would render a man sterile. Indeed. The emperor's visits to the inner palace became increasingly frequent. Sometimes he would even summon concubines to serve him during midday. On the 20th day of the 12th lunar month, Physician Xiao came to check my pulse. Your Highness's health has greatly improved. If you receive imperial favor around the time of your monthly courses, there's a high probability of conceiving a royal heir. Thank you for your hard work, Physician Xiao, calculating the time. The princes had already set off back to the capital, and it was time for me to visit the Empress Dowager. The Shokuan Hall was elegantly simple and refined. The Empress Dowager was quietly reciting Buddhist scriptures while lighting incense candles. Seeing me arrive, she slightly opened her eyes. Rona, you've finally come, I sighed. The human heart is hard to fathom. I understand now. The emperor was not the Empress Dowager's biological son. During the reign of the late emperor, Prince Yi staged a rebellion, spies infiltrated the imperial harem, attempting to poison the empress and incite conflict among the noble families. Consort Roang mistakenly drank the poisoned wine, becoming the scapegoat for the Empress Dowager. She had been as close as sisters with the Empress Dowager, harboring no resentment even in her final moments, and entrusted her own child to the Empress Dowager's care. The Empress Dowager had always remembered Consort Roang's kindness throughout her life. Not only did she help the current emperor ascend the throne, but she also arranged for me, who had been betrothed to Prince Jing since childhood, to marry the emperor instead. Yet the emperor showed no gratitude for any of this. He believed the Empress Dowager had caused Consort Roang's death, and even after successfully inheriting the throne, he remained distant from her. Wasn't the Empress Dowager before me now just like my past self in a previous life? The Prince of Jing is returning to the capital. The Empress Dowager's calm eyes finally rippled with emotion. Since His Majesty ascended the throne, he abandoned everything to guard the northern frontier alone. 7 years without returning to the capital, still unmarried to this day, he resents me in his heart. I have wronged him. I have wronged all of you. She closed her eyes, tear tracks streaking down her face. I wiped away her tears. Aunt Fen, please help me. I want a child. The Empress Dowager's eyes flew open as she stared at me in shock. I placed the long-prepared items before him. The emperor was already preparing to move against Prince Jing. The Empress Dowager had no way out. She could only cooperate with me. Finally, after reading the secret letter, she placed it beside the burning candle with a dark expression. The letter burned to ashes as she answered in a low voice. At the palace banquet on New Year's Eve, I saw that figure again. The moment our eyes met, the surrounding clamor seemed to fade away. He raised his cup to me, and I returned the gesture. No one noticed the suppressed emotions between us. The banquet lasted late into the night, until the drunken emperor was helped away by the eunuchs at his side. Returning to Fengyi Palace, I dismissed my attendants and waited in silence. I don't know how much time had passed when the aphrodisiac incense in the hall began clouding my mind. A man's restrained breathing suddenly came from behind me. I turned sharply to discover Prince Jing had been standing there for quite some time. The youthful Prince Jing overlapped with the man before me in that moment. Without hesitation, I rushed forward, tearing at his clothes. When I woke again, the sky was already bright, and the person beside me had long vanished without a trace. Hui Zhu softly called my name by my ear. Your Highness, noble Lady Xin is bleeding. My mind snapped to attention, and I immediately ordered the summoning of physician Xiao to the palace. After considerable effort, we finally managed to stabilize noble Lady Xin's pregnancy. Needless to say, this was undoubtedly Consort Ning's doing, though unfortunately, I had no proof. I had no choice but to bring noble Lady Xin to Fengyi Palace and let her stay there until she gave birth. The emperor's health has been deteriorating recently, and has started taking stimulant drugs. Though his energy fails him, he visits me more frequently than ever. Only the empress brings peace to my heart. Those other women all think of nothing but getting pregnant. You alone bring me true joy from the depths of my soul. I concealed my mocking smile behind a handkerchief. Little did he know the medicine in my palace was even more potent, a blend of heart illusion powder and double the dose of lust suppressant powder. Watching his eyes grow increasingly dazed as he lay beside me, a wave of nausea churned in my stomach. My child now has a title, and my patience has reached its limit. It's time to force Fu Yuan to make his move. The winter snow gradually melts as the spring breeze gently brushes by. During her time as a concubine, Ning Pin repeatedly urged me to register Fu Yuan under my name, but I ignored all her requests. Realizing I had no intention of cooperating with her, she actually ran off to Consort Shu's palace. She certainly knows how to pick throughout the entire harem. Aside from me, Consort Shu comes from the most influential family, but Consort Shu still remembered that snowball cat Fu Yuan had killed. No sooner had Consort Ning left than she came to my palace in person. She told me Consort Ning was preparing to make a desperate move. I had my informant at Lanqing Palace tell her that the spring flower viewing banquet would be the perfect opportunity to strike. She could use Fu Yuan to ruin me completely. Lady Ning took the bait indeed. That day I deliberately avoided the crowd, standing alone on the bridge gazing quietly at the weeping willows along the shore. Before long, Lady Ning arrived with Fu Yuan in tow. I casually glanced over and noticed the darkness in his eyes had grown even more pronounced. Her Majesty the Queen retreats at the critical moment. Where does that leave me? I withdrew my gaze and looked at her. You're far too bold, daring to lay hands on His Majesty. A drawn bow cannot take back its arrow. Since I've already acted, I must see it through to the end. If your Majesty won't cooperate with me, Then you become my enemy." With these words, she picked up Fu Yuan and threw him straight into the lake. With a loud splash, the enormous sound of something hitting the water startled the people on the shore. Without my command, they hesitated to approach. I pretended to be frightened, waiting a moment before crying out. The eunuchs nearby scrambled into the water to rescue him. My hands clutched the handkerchief tightly. Even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its own cub. How can you not fear your own son's death? Consort Ning curled one corner of her lips. I taught him how to hold his breath long ago. My son won't die, he can only be the final victor. You're absolutely crazy. The spring river water was icy cold, stinging like needles all over when one fell in. When Fu Yuan was rescued, his entire body was stiff, his lips already turning purple. Both the emperor and the empress dowager were alarmed, with Consort Ning throwing herself over Fu Yuan, wailing in grief. "Your Majesty, the empress has such a cruel heart. You actually colluded with noble Lady Xin in an attempt to take my son's life. With the emperor's days numbered, Anna is the only child in the palace, destined to become crown prince. By killing him, are you attempting rebellion? Preposterous. You may slander me if you wish, but how dare you curse His Majesty in the prime of his life?" The emperor's attention had been focused on the rebellion, but upon hearing my words, his eyes immediately narrowed. "My days are numbered." Consort Ning trembled violently, finally realizing the magnitude of the disaster she had brought upon herself. There were many relatives of court officials present, and for the sake of court stability, the emperor's health issues had always been a closely guarded secret, yet she had the audacity to state it so bluntly in public. As expected, someone immediately spoke up. "Since His Majesty is unwell, we should swiftly appoint a crown prince. Her Majesty the Empress has borne no children for years. The first prince's mother was merely a palace maid, and we don't even know if Consort Xin's unborn child will be male. Must we truly consider?" "Enough." The Empress Dowager's sharp reprimand silenced everyone present. "The Empress is already 3 months pregnant, and His Majesty's health is merely a minor ailment. The matter of appointing a crown prince shall be discussed another day." The Emperor's piercing gaze swept toward me, and I responded with a graceful smile. In the blink of an eye, he suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. The Emperor fell gravely ill and could not rise from his bed. Consort Ning was ordered by the Empress Dowager to receive 20 slaps to the face, demoted to the rank of Daing, and banished to the cold palace. While the imperial concubines crowded around the emperor with their solicitous care, I went to see Fu Yuan. His wolf-like eyes watched me with wary suspicion. I softened my voice. "It was my fault as your mother empress for not realizing how cruel your birth mother could be. They say a kind mother raises a filial child. I never wanted to take another's offspring, but I couldn't bear to leave you in that den of wolves any longer. If you're willing, you may stay with me from now on." He remained silent, clenching his teeth as his gaze fell upon my belly. The ambition of this ungrateful wolf was now laid bare. Pretending not to notice, I continued speaking as if to myself. "I am already content with carrying this child. The emperor fears me and will never make my child the heir. Now that His Majesty is angry with Consort Ning, even if you were under my name." "Ah, never mind." I stroked his head gently, and at last he could no longer hold back, weeping in my arms. After a bout of stifled sobs, I heard his hoarse voice say, "She would be happy to trade her life for my path to the heavens." When the emperor learned of his own sterility and that I was pregnant with a prince, he flew into a rage. The Liu family happened to choose this moment to clearly declare they wouldn't contend for the crown prince position, even presenting the legendary panacea rumored to cure all diseases. The emperor didn't trust the Liu family, nor did he trust me, but after witnessing with his own eyes the eunuch who tested the medicine grow male genitalia, he had no choice but to believe. Of course, there was no such thing as immortal medicine. That eunuch was actually one of a pair of twins I had specially sought out. Noble Lady Xin gave birth to a baby boy during the summer, but because she had experienced spotting during pregnancy, the child was left with a weak constitution. The imperial physician said the child wouldn't live long, and Consort Xin wept all day. The emperor had placed great hopes in this child. Upon hearing the news, he fainted for 3 days and woke up with his health completely broken. The court atmosphere was tense, with daily disputes over who should be crowned crown prince. Some argued that in the absence of a legitimate heir, the eldest prince should be appointed, while others claimed his mother had cursed the emperor, an ominous celestial sign, and that the matter should wait until the empress bore a child. I had someone relay these matters to Fu Yuan, and as expected, he couldn't hold back anymore. "Your Majesty, the crown prince visits the cold palace every day and has been feeding Consort Ning large doses of fantasy heart powder. She has little time left in her right mind. I caressed my heavily pregnant belly and curled my lips into a cold smile. The next day, ignoring Huizhu's pleas, I knelt before the emperor's chambers and begged him to name the crown prince as heir apparent. When Fu Yuan heard the news and rushed over, seeing the cold sweat on my forehead, his eyes reddened. Trembling, he uttered, "Mother Empress, you needn't go this far for me." I wanted to smile at him, but a sudden rush of warmth surged beneath me. Huizhu immediately cried out in alarm, "Your Highness, your water has broken." Now it was too late to return to Fengyi Palace for the birth. The surrounding palace maids carried me into the nearest side hall. Huizhu kept murmuring in my ear, "Your Highness, the crown prince is guarding outside the door, you." I gave her an encouraging look and continued to push, listening to the midwife's voice. After what felt like an eternity, chaos suddenly erupted outside the door. "Help, someone, quick, there's an assassin trying to kill the empress." I propped myself up and looked over. Ning Shan, her hair disheveled, had already burst into the room. The eunuchs and maids around were in chaos. Fu Yuan wanted to step forward to stop her, but was frightened back by the wooden hairpin she brandished. "Bitch. I can't let you give birth to a child. I can't let you give birth to a child." She rushed to my bedside and raised her right hand high. At that very moment, Fu Yuan picked up the scissors on the table and stabbed them straight into Ning Shan's neck. "I can't let you harm the Empress Dowager." Suddenly, with a loud wail, the sound of a baby crying filled the room. The third prince was born safely. Ning Shan's corpse was dragged away. Fu Yuan looked at the blood on his hands, his eyes rolled back. And he fainted. When he woke up again, he was in the Dragon Cloud Palace. The emperor had just fallen asleep after drinking his calming tonic. "Lu Ruan, what have you done to me?" He clutched his head, his face twisted in pain. I stared at him in shock. Could it be that he had also been reborn? He frowned, fragments of memories flashing through his mind. "Mother, my mother." I couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Remember now, the bruises on your body. The cold baths you took again and again to help her win favor. The bone-chilling lake water in spring, all for the mother you've been longing for." "No, that's not true. If it weren't for your meddling, my mother would never have treated me this way." I said no more, throwing the newly obtained edict to pointing the crown prince at his feet. "Now that you're the crown prince, do you still want me to go guard Ning Daeng's tomb?" Watching him eagerly pick up the edict from the ground, I took the dagger I had prepared long ago and swiftly plunged it into the emperor's chest. Before he could react, I raised my voice and declared, "The crown prince has attempted to assassinate his majesty. Take him away and hand him over to the imperial clan court." Fu Yuan turned pale with shock, hurling curses at me one after another, but it was already too late. The emperor had passed away. To prevent chaos, the Empress Dowager issued an edict summoning Prince Jing back to the capital to take charge of the situation. The legitimate heir being too young, voices calling for Prince Jing to ascend the throne grew increasingly numerous in the imperial court. When Prince Jing returned to the capital, he immediately declared his support for the third prince. The Lu family no longer remained silent, and my Nyana finally succeeded to the throne without incident. At the coronation ceremony, I held my 1-month-old Nyana in my arms as we sat upon the high platform, exchanging a knowing smile with the regent beside me. From this moment on, my life is finally complete.